Hey guys, welcome back to Friends and Enemas. My name's Lindsey. I'm your host, and who do I have with me?
My name's Jason Wolf.
Awesome. Do you want to give them like a little brief of how we met?
Yeah. So,
if you remember.
Oh, I do. The nursing world's like a really small world, and so funny. I was in San Francisco, and coincidentally, you and a couple of other influencers were in San Francisco, and you and I were just starting off on a TikTok journey.
Yeah.
And I remember you had maybe 50,000 followers at the time and everything. And of course, you've grown since then. But you and I reached out to each other and we're like, hey, we should go live one time and just talk and just vibe. And when we went live, I was so nervous. I usually don't talk on camera, but and it was just one of the coolest collabs. You were an amazing person. I was like, we have to meet up and we have to do a video collab. I have some ideas. And just to think how wild of a life it is to hang out with you in downtown San Francisco. Now here we are in LA.
I know, and that was like 2 years ago. We said maybe 2. I was like, was it 2 or was it 3? But it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
which is so fun because I've kept up with you at least online. We'll get into your story a little bit here in a second, and then Wynn was there too. Which shout out to Wynn. Haven't seen her since then either, actually. But before we get started, I figured just to get your juices flowing, we could do a Would You Rather Nurse Edition.
Let's play.
I did this with Brendan on his episode, and it seemed to go pretty well. So,
that was a fun episode, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're ICU, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Look, I'm a Southern
You're
boy.
You're a Southern boy.
Yeah, this is how we operate.
I said, wait, you're bringing me back to Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's right. Texas and Oklahoma, we're neighbors.
We're neighbors. I know exactly where that comes from.
Yeah, we come from the same place.
Would you rather perform a digital impaction on a patient and then run your fingers across your upper lip, or drink 5 mils of residuals directly from a peg tube?
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, that one of them's like oh my gosh, this is taking me back to my high school days of the dirty Sanchez, and if anybody knows what that is, no, you don't want to know. Google it if you don't know. I'm not speaking about that on camera. It's Urban Dictionary if you must. But the first oh my god. Yeah, so there is no force on heaven and earth that would ever possess me to drink residuals.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The amount
I don't have to ingest the poop, right? In the first one?
Correct.
I don't have to ingest it, right? Yeah,
it's just on your upper lip.
Yeah, that stuff stays out of me. Yeah, yes.
Snaps, because I've asked somebody this before and they would rather drink the residuals. I'm like, what? That's disgusting.
No. You know, the funny thing about nursing is there's a lot of people that join this industry with trauma. And when I hear that somebody wants to drink residuals over the dirty Sanchez, then trauma. Yeah, you've got some demons.
Something's wrong with you.
Something's wrong with just a little bit, and that's the litmus test to find out what is wrong with you. Yeah,
if you choose that.
Yeah, I just need to know for a mental health survey. Yeah, whichever one you choose is going to tell me who's doing all right in life. You are not doing well in life if you choose to drink residuals.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, would you rather smell C. diff for the whole shift or GI bleed for the whole shift?
Oh man, gosh, who made that?
Me.
Did you really? Me. That's hilarious. You came up with that? Yeah, that's both vile and evil.
I like vile.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You have to if you're in this yet again trauma.
Yeah, dark humor.
Here we are. You know what? God bless. I've broken my nose so many times, and so it's really good because I don't smell the smells that most people smell.
Oh, nice.
Smells that most people smell.
Right.
Yeah. Nice little alliteration there. But but if somebody's baking brownies, I can't really smell those either, right? And so, blessing and a curse. But if I was to curse myself with a sense of smell during a nursing shift, which I don't wish that upon my worst enemies, I would definitely, shoot. You know, there's levels to GI bleed.
There are.
Right? C. diff is just C. diff.
It's just C. diff.
It's a constant C. diff, right? Mm-hmm. GI bleed, you could be like, oh, that's at least 3 hemoglobins right there. You know what I mean? Oh, that's a 4 hemoglobin GI bleed. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to say C. diff. Yeah. Just keep it safe.
We're the same.
I would you don't know what you're getting, but with GI bleed, you don't quite know what you're getting. C. diff, I know what I'm getting. It's a safe bet. It could be worse, could be not, but I know what I'm getting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They all smell a little bit sweet.
Yeah,
we already know.
Yeah, GI bleed is a piñata I don't want to crack open.
No, that's a good point. Okay, we'll do one more. Let's see if I can find a good one. Ooh, would you rather take a shit in a patient's commode privately or in the unit bathroom, but the door is open and everyone's watching?
Oh, man. Man, when I was a CNA in a nursing home, I had to go so bad. And the bathroom was like all the way down the hall.
Oh, no.
I didn't use the commode, but I did use a patient's restroom, or a resident, if you will. And I feel like I'm one step away from just using that commode, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I'll do that. Yeah, and nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah,
it's just you and your conscience.
Me and my and I'll take that to my grave. Nobody needs to know.
Tell a soul.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell a soul.
Speaking of shitting in a patient's bathroom, I was a sitter. I was a nurse at this time. I was sitting for a patient. We were very short-staffed, obviously. That's why I was there. And I had pressed the call light several times. I had to use the bathroom so bad. I pressed the call light. I would peek my head out. I'm like, God, it's a suicidal ideation patient. Like, you can't leave him.
Oh, no.
And I was like, you know what? He's sleeping. Went to the bathroom, in his bathroom, left the door cracked so I could see him.
Oh,
pee.
my
It was just pee, thank
God.
God. But I went so fast, got done, went and sat down. Someone comes in to check. I was like, are you kidding me?
No.
I could have waited like 60 seconds.
Yeah.
But I've been
What are
waiting
the
already.
odds?
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
But better than them coming in.
Wait. But did you do this to yourself? Did you hit that call light, you said?
I hit the call light for somebody to come, please come help me.
And then you hit the call light and you ratted on yourself,
I know.
girl.
But I called several times like, hey, I need somebody to relieve me. I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, someone will be right there, and they're just busy. They forget. I was like, I'm going to hit the call light.
Oh, and you gave up on humanity, but humanity didn't give up on you.
Didn't.
Oh, no.
Didn't. But had they come in within like 60 seconds before, they would have seen me on their toilet. But
I didn't
get caught.
Oh, okay.
I just finished. I walked out, sat down. Somebody came in. I was like...
Yeah, you know the timing thing. I have a really funny one with timing. I was in Boston, right, and I was in my mid-20s, right, and I didn't quite know how to handle awkward situations, right.
Fair.
And there was a respiratory therapist, funniest dude, right, but like he's a little inappropriate, but it's like the kind of inappropriate that it's like nobody would know except for like the people, like the coworkers, right. He's like one of those kind of guys. Anyway, we're getting ready to like intubate a patient, right? And he just farts in the room, and it is Artemis fowl. I mean, it is like,
Was it loud?
Oh yeah, but the thing is though, is that wasn't the part that was vile. It was the smell. Oh, no. And then he goes, I've got everything set for intubation. Okay, man, I'm gonna leave now. He leaves.
He crop dusted you guys.
Yeah, but I'm in the room by myself now. Now the whole medical team comes in. And they smell and they see me.
It's you.
It's me. Yeah, I took a hit, and then it's like, and I had to do what any respectable person would do in that situation, and I blamed the patient. Because I can't blame the RT,
right?
Because I'm not a snitch.
You're not a snitch, and also, would they even believe you?
Yeah.
So
it wasn't me. It was the RT.
Yeah.
Well, where's the RT?
Right.
Yeah, where's the RT? And it's like, had to think quick. It was the patient. Yeah,
that would never have been me, guys.
I'm a respectable person. I'm not taking the fall for that. I didn't do that, right? Yeah.
No, but like, we're taking care of the patients. That's like one thing that they could give back. Just let us blame the farts on you. Yeah. And we're good.
Oh no, I just, you can blame everything on a patient sometimes. Like, let's just say like you're doing an IV. This is for all like the new grads, right? If you are trying to get an IV and it's your first IV and you're so nervous that you're going to hurt them or something like that, and all respectable reasons why to be nervous, and you can't seem to get the vein because you keep blowing it, right? I like to just go, oh, it's because you have rolling veins, right? Oh, you must
telling them our secrets.
Yeah, you must be dehydrated. Oh, you got really tense, Oh, you're very valvy. There's a lot, and you just always, they want to blame you. No, you put the blame back on them. It's
you
like
gaslight them a little bit.
Gaslight them just a little bit. Like, you know what? I'm actually really good at this. But it's your veins.
Yeah. It's hardly you. It's just your veins.
And you're a good person.
Yeah. But it's not you, but your veins.
But your veins, yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, jumping back into how we met, we already talked about that, but what have you been up to lately?
Ooh, shoot. So I live in Long Beach now.
Cool.
And, when I start reflecting on, like, my whole nursing career, right? We were talking about this. I've worked at 22 hospitals now.
My God.
Yeah, just been traveling, right? And it's that thing that we were talking about earlier where you you think you're doing a soul-searching service to yourself to like go travel, find out where you want to go lay down some roots. But the more you see, you know, it's like what we said, it's like travel nursing is like online dating. It's like the more options you have, the harder it is to pick a place and just settle down, right? We become opportunists, right? And it's and I fell victim to that, right? Where I've been traveling around so much, and I think I like California. Nursing is so amazing.
Yeah.
I started, so I work in the San Diego area now, and really enjoying it. Still doing travel nursing because I don't think I could ever go back to staff.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I think staff just kind of is tainted right now for me. We left Oklahoma. We came straight to California, which I also say was like not the best move because you get the best of the best out here.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And not to say that I know East Coast nursing can be really cool too, but I've never ventured out that way.
Yeah. Shout out to Boston and Atlanta.
Yeah.
It was
like
a good time.
they have great hospitals as well, but
Phenomenal.
I've only been through California, Kansas, Washington, and we've lived in other states around in Arizona. And now like whenever I'm comparing, I'm like, California's the best.
Yeah. Pro tip, if you're going to travel nurse, right, don't start in California because you're never going to leave and you're never going to see anything else. And when you do leave, you're going to want to come back.
Every time.
And you're not even going to be able to look at the next place that you go to with any respect because you're going to be like, what do you mean you don't have a resource nurse? What do you mean there's no turn team?
Resource nurse.
Yeah, what is this word break? Dude, I didn't even know what the word break meant. I'm from Texas, right? Break, we're like, is that French? Like, what is this?
What does this even actually mean?
Yeah, and they like over there, like they make you feel guilty for taking a break in Texas. And in California, they make you feel guilty for not taking your break.
Oh yeah, you're going to take your mandatory break.
Take your break. Yeah. Like this is
mandatory.
This is not option.
No.
Yeah, you were doing this.
And they actually help. In my experience, I've said this before online and people are like, my resource nurses don't do shit. And I'm like, in my experience, every resource nurse I've had has helped me. And I don't leave stuff for them to do.
Right.
But they'll find something to do and they're like, by the way, I emptied your Fully bag. And I'm like,
yeah, well, you know what? But that comes down to culture, right?
Yeah.
I worked at a hospital. I'm not going to name it, but I worked at it, and it was one of those like militant hierarchy type places, right? Where it's like the weird thing about nursing, right? Just in general, is that it's a profession that's unique because you don't get paid based off of how good you are at doing the job. You get paid for how long you've been doing it.
Yeah.
You've got nurses out there that have been doing it for 5 years that are so much better than nurses that have been doing it for 20 years.
Yep.
They know more and everything. But regardless, you go to these places and these nurses that have been doing it for like 20 years, that nobody like gets rid of them, nobody fires them or anything like that because they go, well, you know, that's Becky. You know, we know who, you know, that's just what Becky does. Rolling the eyes,
that's
right?
just how she is.
Yeah, but then these new nurses come in and then they like grill them like a steak. And then they're like, you know, how are you not like doing this? Why aren't you doing this? And it's like, well, Becky doesn't do it either.
Right.
And the thing is though, is the Beckys of the world become resource nurses at some of these places and they use that shift as like a vacation.
Yeah.
To like,
that's true.
To just like, oh, you know, I don't want to do any charting. And apparently you don't want to do any patient care either, right? Because it's like
I went on my break and I came back and it's still the same.
It's still the same, right?
In fact, it's worse.
Yeah, in fact, it's worse. Yeah, like, good job, Becky.
Yeah, thanks, Becky.
Yeah, and Becky's a fictional name. I'm not dropping a real name here. It's just the first name that I thought of.
Well, speaking of travel nursing, can you tell us a little bit about your background before you got into travel nursing? I heard maybe you were a manager at some point. Yeah,
not a good time in my life, to be honest.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no,
Rewind.
no. Let's play because it's funny, right? You go into nursing and you hear it all the time. Everybody's got ambition, right? You have to have a little bit of ambition. And it is a crazy thing to see in nursing because we live in a bubble where we are surrounded by doctors, therapists, nurses, very educated people, right? There's a famous phrase, you're an average of the 5 people you hang around most. And so by being around ambition all the time, you become ambitious naturally through like just osmosis it is. And it's funny though, because even the dumbest person in the room is still light years smarter than so many people out there People do not understand that, I feel like, about the medical field. And we're constantly at a high pressure to perform well because it is expected and it is required of us, and there is no grace if we slip up. And so because of that ambition, people go into the field and they go, oh, I'm not going to be in bedside forever, right? That's the dream, right? To get out of it. And so what my dream was I wanted to be the guy running the show.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the charge nurse. I wanted respect, right? You know, growing up, you know, you work retail, you do these type of things, you work as a CNA, then all of a sudden you get in a better position, you want to keep climbing, right? Not everybody, but some people do. Some people, right?
Most people.
And so I went into management, right? And I went into a hospital, and I'm not going to name the hospital, but it was in Texas. And this hospital had a high turnover in management. And I was like, why don't I take a crack at it? Why don't I swing at it? I was like, let me interview, right? And I interviewed for it, and I didn't even think I was going to get it. And I got it. Yeah. And I had no earthly idea what it was to be a manager. And so I was training in management, and I had a co-manager, and she was great. Honestly, like one of the smartest people I ever met. I mean, truly, like when I think of a leader, I always think of her.
Oh.
And she was like, I'm going to give you the orientation that I never had. Well, while I was getting oriented, COVID-19 was starting. And my orientation got cut real short. You want to talk about imposter syndrome? I was going to work with literally no guidance. It wasn't like I would just go to work and they're like, we have a meeting. Did you prepare for this meeting? I'm like, what meeting? And they're like, every month you're supposed to review the data of the budget. You're supposed to talk to the controller. You're supposed to do these things. And nobody told me that because like we were so short staffed that I was having to work the floor. I was having to perform at these meetings. We didn't have like transporters, rapid response nurses. I became that.
Oh no.
While I'm in management, people would like laugh, like, why are you doing this? You're the manager. And I'm like, because
nobody
else will.
Yeah.
And the problem is that I think being a manager, it was like they treat you like a waiter at a restaurant. You know that time when you're like eating food at a restaurant and your waiter goes away and you're waiting for your food, and then you're like, where the hell is my waiter? But you have no idea that your waiter's on like 4 different tables.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to be the manager, because people went to work 3 days a week, right? Respectable, right? And because I know a lot of people shit on that, going like, oh, you only do 3 days. Those are
hard 12-hour shifts.
Those are 3 days that deleted out of your life.
Exactly.
People don't understand that. It's not a 9 to 5. That day, erase that from your existence of you progressing and whatever endeavors you have in your personal life.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So you technically only have 4 days.
Yeah.
Like, while most people still have those halves, right? But long story short, I felt like I was getting treated like a waiter, where people, when they didn't see me, they were like, why is he getting to relax? I was working 12 hours, 16 hours every single day. I even did 20 hours in a day. And yeah, it was absolutely insane. And in of course, it's like what everybody says to nurses, you chose this job. You chose this field. I didn't quite know what I was signing up for. I was young. I was ambitious. I thought I wanted to be the man. I wanted to be in charge. I learned a lot about not only management and leadership, but I learned a lot about myself. And I say I'm blessed to have this profession, because I learned that it's not always the most fun to own the boat. You want to be the guy that knows the guy that owns the boat. I don't want to clean up the boat. I just want to have a party on the boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I don't need to be the guy in charge. I don't need to be the unit manager. I want to be the person that supports the manager.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, you know, the difference between a follower and a leader. And I feel like there's a lot of different ways to lead, but there's a lot of liability on you. And every issue that you have, there's no boundary between. The one beautiful thing about nursing is that when you're done with nursing, you clock out, you go home. The problem is with management, you're getting emails, calls, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. We're short. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was during COVID. We were short every single day. I did this thing where I said, I'm going to play credit card, which is when we're short on a day, I'm going to bribe people to go, I can get you off this weekend. Work Tuesday. I'm playing credit card because I'm going to pay for this later.
Yeah.
But I need some bodies now, right? And I needed a day. So I stacked the deck once where I was like, you know what, we're always short. I'm always getting calls. You know, it was causing a lot of problems in my personal life. I was ball and chained to the city I was living in because as a manager, I couldn't go home and visit my family while everybody else was visiting their family during COVID and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't leave because I was on call 24/7, right? And I had to make up excuses like I'm sick, you know, just to get a break. And even when I'm sick, it's like, whatever I'm coming back to, I'm paying for it. It's credit card.
Yeah.
So I paid credit card, and I had all these people stacked on one shift, and I was like, there's no way I'm getting a call. Now, we're 5 nurses over. I got a call. And they're like, you're short. And I'm like, how is that possible? And they go, oh, well, MedSurg was short. They've called in, so we had to float somebody from Tele. Now, Tele's short, so we had to float somebody over from PCU. Now, PCU is short. Now we had to float all these people to ICU, and that was a big transition period of COVID nursing where the ICU nurse now is no longer the ICU nurse. It's now a glorified float pool nurse. Mm-hmm. Everybody who signs up for these contracts acts surprised. They're going, oh, how am I didn't sign up to get floated. I didn't. And it's like, you didn't, right? But the industry has changed, where the ICU nurse is now the utility nurse for the whole hospital. Yeah. And you didn't sign up for it, but that's just the way the system is now. And that's what I saw happening before my eyes, where I'm like, you know, these hospitals weren't doing any other they gaslit me. They were like, I was like, man, like, why can't MedSurg get their act right? Are you calling them? And they go, no, because they're not short. Only you. And the house supervisor only cares about putting a Band-Aid for the shift at that day. They don't care that, like, the waiter is
long term.
Yeah, they didn't care that I was, like, getting called every day because they're not there every day, right? Mm-hmm. It's the waiter thing. And so these people, they when they told me that, and I was like, how is this fair to me, right? You know, I'm like having a moment because I'm breaking down at this point. I'm talking to, like, my chief nursing officer and everything. I'm like, how is this fair to me? She gaslit me. She goes, there's more things going on than just you. And then she goes, that's why we gave you all the travelers. And I was like, oh, am I supposed to say thank you? Because I don't feel like I have these travelers because they're floating all over the hospital. Right. And so management, I hit a brick wall. You know, they kept putting the carrot in front of the horse. They kept going, you know, COVID's not going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. It started hard in May. It was December, and I was like, this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. And I was like, and they guilt you. They did this in COVID. They guilted so many nurses from being able to, like, they're like, oh, you know, they're going to travel for $10K a week in New York and everything. And I'm like, in no other profession do you ever have a nurse or any other profession where you have somebody going, hey, you can make 5 times your annual salary down the street. And then they'd be like,
in a fraction of the time.
They're like, everybody would be like, you'd be dumb not to do it. Yep. But in nursing, they go, are you in it for the money? And it's like, let me tell you something here, dude. This is not community service. We are all here, right? Like, I'm not Mother Teresa donating all my free time to this, right? This I'm getting paid for a service, right? And I'm being compensated. And that is, if I wasn't doing that, this would be slavery, dude. Like,
it's weird. What you're saying is people say, well, I thought it was a calling. Well, if you're going to chase the money, you're not very passionate about it. Oh, you don't care about the patients. That's what we were being told. And it's like, that's hilarious, because any one of us could have went to travel, whether you have kids, don't have kids, have a family. It could have been harder for many other situations, but you have the availability to go travel.
Correct.
But you, for whatever reason, you can't with your personal life, but because your colleague could, now you hate them. Now you want to shit on them. Yeah. And I'm like, no. Yeah. The shit we had to deal with in COVID is absurd. Yeah. And then the praise we got during COVID, and as it started to go down, where's the praise now? Right. Where's my hero sign? Right. Actually, take it down. I don't like the hero sign.
Honestly, it irritates me.
Take down the fucking hero signs. When I see that, I'm like, fuck. fuck you.
Yeah. It's like that pizza party thing. It's like, fuck the pizza. I still want it.
I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
But it's the principle.
Yeah.
It's the principle. It's a Band-Aid to cover up what you're actually not doing, which is supporting us.
Right.
We're underappreciated, underpaid, overworked. Especially, it sounds like, from a manager point of view as well.
Oh, yeah. I sympathize. I see some of your videos where you guys are digging on them a little bit. And then I'm just sitting there like that one meme with that like clay figure just like, and people just be shitting on them. And I'm like, it used to be something I wanted to be like, manager, right? Now I'm just like, let's put that underneath the table.
To be fair, I was about to say I've never had a manager role on here. And maybe it's because I've been shitting on them. And I'm not shitting on everyone.
Right.
But there is a certain personality that I am shitting on. And it's the managers who leave their nurses high and dry and pretend that they don't remember how it is. Like you're coming in every shift, but how many managers don't? And I don't know the situations. Yeah. But how many managers, I was going to ask you about like budget. Do you know anything about budget? Because that's my big, I'm like, from an outsider's point of view, again, I've never been in there, but from an outsider's point of view, there was a contract I worked where I was floated to tele all the damn time. And hot take, I kind of think tele might be worse than med surge.
Yeah.
It's the beeping and the noises and
God bless
all the things. There was a nurse on that unit that had told me a patient threw their cardiac monitor at her head. It hit the wall, it broke. It's about $10,000.
At her head?
Threw it at her head, she ducked.
Oh, okay.
Hit the wall and broke.
Like, damn, I would, my financial situation, I would move into that monitor like, please take me out. Yeah, y'all saw that, right?
That's funny. But it was about $10,000. Her manager brought her in to the office and reprimanded her. She said, that's going to cost our unit $10,000. And she's like, I didn't know the patient was going to throw it at me. Why is that my problem? Right. And she said, because of the budget. And I'm like, well, I want to know more about this fucking budget.
Yeah. And I've got a two-parter for that one, right? The first one...
and everywhere's different.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, every place is different. But I will say that the whole reprimanding of what could you have done differently, right? And I've heard you talk about this before, but I just want to like... hit the nail on the head with you is that in no other profession do you ever have if somebody wants to hurt themselves. If I'm working at Best Buy and somebody wants to hurt themselves, I don't get in trouble if that person hurts themselves. A police officer doesn't get in trouble if somebody does. You try to stop them, right? But if they are successful, they did the best that they could.
Sure.
Right? You know what I mean? And you start doing that shit on an airline, dude, you get on a no-fly list, right? Like, they're with the stewardess. They're like, screw that guy. Right? But in our profession, people all the time put themselves in terrible positions in life. There are only two type of people that end up in the ICU. People who either got dealt a bad hand or people who have neglected their health for so long that they ended up in a bad situation, and then we get condemned for not fixing them or not doing the best we could or blah 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 blah, or how are they not doing better and everything. And the problem is I'm doing the best that I can, but I can't want this more than you.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're preaching.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying it's so crazy, right? And so that part really, like, no, you tickled a nerve with me on that one, because that one really grinds my gears. But going back into that budget, though, a funny thing about budget, right? This is one that I thought was interesting, is in the pie chart of a hospital's budget, the number one expenditure for every hospital is compensation, which is why they micromanage the crap out of it. And the thing that like annoyed me so much during COVID, right, and when I was in management, was the reason why nurses were getting paid $10,000 a week in New York City was because the U.S. government came through and did FEMA contracts. These were emergency nurses that were like enacted, right? Now the problem is the pandemic spread past New York, and then the rest of the hospitals start getting screwed over, and then every state's going,
what about us?
What about us?
Yeah.
So the government goes, we got contracts for everybody. But that came out of the government's pocket, which meant that the hospital wasn't paying anybody, right? They had free labor.
Yeah.
And so there was this rule at our hospital where we couldn't have nurses work more than 6 days in a row. They masquerade behind this idea of it's for patient safety, it's for your safety. But when you're not paying the bill and the government is, well, then now all of a sudden we can work these nurses 14 days in a row. What about safety? We don't care, right? They lie to us all the time. Everything is about money. The whole healthcare service industry went from the quantity of care that we give you to now being paid and reimbursed based off of the quality of care.
Yeah.
And so everybody, you've worked in the hospital, there's a big shift movement where Foley catheters, central lines are illegal. When I went to nursing school, it was against the rules to put Levofed through a peripheral IV. You fail your test. If you did that, they would laugh at you like, you're trying to make a patient lose their arm?
Right.
Now they go, oh, well, you know, if we do a culture and everything and it tests out positive, right, we will be giving them the wrong antibiotics. They did that shit with the Foleys. They do that with everything. And it's like, there's so many times I've seen like negative health outcomes for patients that deserved a Foley, deserved like a line, right? They go, oh, just do inside out catheters. Where do you think infection comes from? It comes from when you put the lines in, right? It's not when they're already in that we're having the major introduction to outside pathogens. It's when we keep inserting it over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And
it's infuriating on our end.
Yeah, and then and as far as the budget goes, they run a tight ship. There is this artificial scarcity in nursing. They always say, oh, you know, there's a real nursing shortage. You know what? I was explaining this to my father, right?
Keep going. This is awesome.
Yeah, I was explaining this to my father, right? My dad's trying to like wrap his head around it, right? He goes, there's so many nurses coming out of school. How's there a shortage? And I was like, let me tell you how the shortage is, because it's all man-made. This is how it works. And anybody who works, I'm going to explain it in ICU terms so everybody knows what I'm talking about. Imagine that in an ideal ICU, right? Because I know from the South, we can operate on different ratios, but let's go 2 to 1, right? Every nurse has 2 patients. Now, there will be occasionally a time where 2 nurses on that unit will have 1 patient each, right? And so that's really good, actually, right? Because now we could take admissions, right? And these patients can get seen quicker because they have a bed waiting for them with a nurse that's available. Well, the problem is due to budgets and the staffing matrices that hospitals use, they will take 1 nurse that has 1 patient and she will have to give that patient to the other nurse. Now you have a nurse that can take 2 patients. And you're probably thinking, wow, that's great, you know, but no. Then what they do is they send that nurse home because we're overstaffed.
Yeah.
We can never be overstaffed, but we can only be staffed perfectly or understaffed. And when we're understaffed, the hospital's making a lot of money because a lot of nurses are working harder on less shit. And so the funny thing is that they send that nurse home. And then my father goes, well, what happens if you get another patient? And I said, now we have a nursing shortage. Now we have a nursing shortage. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. And it's like, you don't think these hospitals don't have the room to be able to hire more nurses? That would fix our problem. The question always became to me when I was in management, why don't we hire more nurses? You think I have that power? There's powers above me, right? Because these hospitals are run by business conglomerates that are not medical people. They're not taking admissions. They've never taken an admission. They don't care. They see numbers. They see red and green. When we're understaffed, we're in green in the budget, and they like that. And they're like, what are we doing here? Let's keep doing that here. Oh, yeah, what we're doing here is our unit's on fire and everything's burning down to the ground and everybody fucking hates me. Yeah. That's what's happening in green. When it's green, you're happy, I'm miserable. When it's red, my staff is happy, but you're miserable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting take because like you're saying, the truth is they're pretty much gaslighting us as a culture to believe we don't have enough nurses. We do have enough nurses. We don't have enough nurses willing to work, under conditions that we are all brainwashed under. Yeah. Where, like you're saying, 1 nurse goes home, and so 1 nurse might be tripled. Yeah. And it's like, why don't we, or we're just always understaffed. Or, like you said, you might be staffed that day, and another unit is understaffed, and we have to have to refill for them.
Yeah, and it's a real Stockholm syndrome, right? Yeah. Because what does nursing attract? It attracts a nurturing brand of person, a human that is so kind that they're willing to sacrifice a little bit of their mental health to take care of somebody else, right? And you take that person and you abuse them, and you tell them that this is what the calling is, and that person believes it, and they get themselves in a hostage situation where when somebody's offering them $10,000 a week that could change your life, they go, you don't want to leave here. What are you doing this for? I thought you were doing this for the patients and everything.
They twisted on you.
Yeah, they twisted on you. Yeah, and it's so funny though, because it's like we get used to that treatment, like you were talking about, like where we have to go float and everything. Yeah. And it's so funny because I don't like neuro ICU. I've done it plenty of times. I don't like it, but when I do a contract, I get floated to neuro. And I remember telling my recruiter, I go, I don't want to do neuro ICU. And she goes, oh, we will not do neuro ICU. And I was like, good. Like, I could do CV ICU, I could do medical ICU. I do not want to do neuro. I get there, I float to neuro. I don't complain. I do my job. I do what I'm told.
Sure.
But then other nurses are like, I don't do neuro. Like, I didn't sign up for this. And I'm like, yeah, and they don't tell you that. And people go, why are they upset? Shouldn't they know that they're getting floated? And it's like, no, I can see why they're upset. Because nobody told you that this is what you were going to be doing. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. That happens to me too. When you're an ICU nurse, I don't know who decided the ICU nurses can handle all these other units, all these other specialties, like med-surg. Like, well, you handle ICU, acutely with 2 people. I cannot actually handle a 6-patient med-surg.
Right.
It's less acuity.
It's a different game.
It's broad, but there's more people needing more of me over and over. And by 11 a.m., I haven't charted shit. I sit down to chart and it starts all over. Yeah. The new meds for 6 people, they all need something else. Like, it's insane. It's
an assembly worker, right? It's like if you're trying to produce more yield, right, for a service, right? You're taking care of more patients, right? Well, it's just like any auto industry, right? If you're trying to make a lot of cars and everything, and you're trying to do it in a certain amount of time on a specific budget, right? Corners are going to be cut, right? And people all the time wonder why mistakes happen. Yeah. And it's like, because this is all artificially made. Yeah. You guys are pushing us. Well, I had a employee actually, and he was an old-time guy, man, and he was like my work dad, right? and he told me a funny one. He goes, you know what these people do? They find out you're standing in a body of water, and they find out, how high can I raise this water for you to just get enough air, and they hold you there. And when the water levels move and you start inching on your tippy toes, they're like, oh, they're still okay. It's only until it starts bubbling, then they go, okay, bring it back down, right? And the problem is we pushed ourselves so hard during COVID and we survived, and we did it, and now they're like, let's do that again. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going back. Once you let people, that's why I like these unions in California. They don't budge. You know what thing is so funny? They're like, I'm like, oh, it's okay, I don't need to take a break. And they're like, no, you're taking your break.
We fought for this.
We fought for this. Yeah. Yes. And I didn't understand until
we're gonna talk about this. Keep going.
Yeah, I didn't understand until I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, in Texas, I've done this, right? And they go, no, because if you allow them to take a little, they'll take everything.
Yes.
Yes.
I just had a podcast interview with a union rep.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm from Oklahoma, you're from Texas. Yeah. And we can tell the people, after you leave somewhere that is anti-union, Texas is most likely anti-union. Oklahoma is Texas's baby sister. They're the same. Yeah. Very anti-union. I was raised anti-union. I had parents and family telling me, you never work for a union from a child.
Yes. Yeah.
Then in my own nursing school, teaching us anti-union propaganda.
Yes.
And you don't know it because you've been raised in it.
That's so funny. I didn't even really think about that until just now. Yeah.
So then you leave and you travel nurse. I'm telling my story. I travel nurse in California, right? I have a great contract. They have a strike coming up. I get more money for strike. I say, I want to do the strike. Yeah. I'll cross the picket line. Yeah. People come after me for this all the time. But if you could just understand, I cross the picket line. I'm like, why are they so mad at me? Why are they spitting and throwing shit at me? Why are they blocking the bus? I'm here to help the patients and I'm getting more money. Right. It's because we have literally been raised to believe unions are bad.
Yeah.
That's evil. You shouldn't be doing that. When in reality, unions have been around for years. And even like family members that have told me, don't work for a union, don't even recognize that they're benefiting from a union from way back when. How did they get their weekends?
Oh my
off?
gosh.
How did you get holidays
You're
off at
so
one
correct.
point? It's from a union at one point,
Yeah.
but they're brainwashed as well because they live in a bubble.
Yeah.
We left the bubble. I worked for a strike. A bunch of people were really angry at me. I was like, I don't understand. Somebody actually sat down with me and explained what a union is and how it's hurtful. And I'm just saying for me, I wouldn't work another strike personally because I don't have to. There are other people that have to work them.
That's a lot. That's a lot of emotional baggage that you're carrying with. You know what I mean? That's a lot.
Not to mention, after working one, it's dangerous as fuck.
Yeah.
The amount of people who lied on their resume saying that they were CRRT certified, that they were ECMO certified, and they weren't.
Dude.
Our first shift was in shambles. We're in literally a transplant ICU, and nobody knows shit.
Oh my
And I'm
God.
like, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah.
No wonder the doctors are angry.
Yes.
Nobody knows what's going on.
Yes.
No wonder the nurses outside are angry. They're fighting for our rights as nurses.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense once you are in it and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
a light bulb goes off.
Yeah.
We weren't taught this stuff. In fact, we were taught opposite of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like once you see the fruits that unions bring in like California, I'm like, you guys get your full break uninterrupted.
Uninterrupted is
And
huge.
they get in huge trouble, very heavy fees, along with how much they have to pay us if we don't get our break. You know what I mean? There's so much more to it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's actually
you.
the funny thing about travel nursing, right? In
Yeah.
California, this is why it's so hard for me to go back. You kind of like, you're not part of the union, but
Right.
you reap all the benefits
Yeah,
of being.
it's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, so funny though. Just to like hit that point again, when I was in management, some hospitals did something called team nursing, where they would have nurses of like lower acuity, or they would have nurses that were getting laid off, like PACU nurses and stuff like that, because they weren't doing elective procedures.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, hey, why don't we, and it was actually my co-manager that suggested the idea. I suggested it too, right? She's the brains of the operation, truly. And we suggested, like, why don't we get like these PACU nurses that are just sitting at home collecting a check? Nothing wrong with that, but just saying, why don't we get them to start like passing the medicine? You know what I mean? It would help us all out because we're at a 3-to-1 ratio over here with an acute patients. And then they go, oh no, we don't want to do that because there's talks of them unionizing and we don't want to upset them and everything. And I'm like, so we're just gonna like get left high and dry because because you know one thing that's so funny is that the hospital did not want to potentially piss off or fuck over these PACU nurses, right? In fear of them joining a union. Unions, I know there's another side to it. I grew up in the South. I've heard it, but unions kind of put the brakes on a lot of these hospitals that want to overstep some boundaries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is, I'll say doctors talk to me a lot differently in California than they did in Texas.
Yeah.
Texas, man, because it's, you're going to have to speak to a union rep. You're going to have to we have our own HR person in the union. I mean, they have, unions are very well organized.
They have their own attorneys. They have their own sector of anyone you can think of.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they, and it's like, I think nurses cling on to them because there's not a lot of support groups out there for nurses, right?
Exactly.
I mean, Lululemon, shout out to y'all for that 25% off during COVID.
During COVID, where'd it go?
Yeah, no, where'd it go?
It went down to 15, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Is this going to be like a Pride Month thing where it's like we get it once a year?
Once a year.
Yeah,
Nurses Month.
Yeah, once a year. Rainbow flag once a year.
Yeah.
Little
should be
cross.
all year long.
Yeah, it should be all year long. God bless. Yeah. No, but the icon, you guys still have that nursing discount for that. I'm all screw epic icon, but it was just so funny though. With I guess with like the fear that unions can strike in the hospitals and everything. And when I was in San Francisco, oh my gosh, they're doing it right up there.
They are doing it right up there.
Gosh.
Those nurses make bank.
God bless, as they should.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super expensive, right?
Sure.
It's so funny.
High.
California is like San Francisco paid very handsomely, right? Very expensive cost of living, right? LA, not as expensive, but it's flirting close, you know? And they pay a lot less. In San Diego, respectfully, almost just as expensive as LA, and they're making it just keeps going down.
They make the same amount as some Arizona nurses.
That's what I'm saying.
And cost of living in Arizona is getting higher, but it's less than San Diego.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are those nurses even making a living with just 36 hours a week with a full-time work? Right. It's insane.
Yeah, I do think like in these hospitals and everything, it's like nurses, in my opinion, shouldn't have to struggle to make a living, because without nurses, your hospitals cannot run. That was a beautiful thing that that I saw during COVID, right? We can operate without a doctor sometimes, right? Yeah. You know, ChatGPT, AI, you know, there's a lot of intelligence out there. We could do teledoc. We could do a lot of things. But I don't care what level of AI you've got. You ain't switching IV bags. Some hands have to do that, right? Yeah. Some hands have to get Mima off the commode, right? No artificial intelligence is going to be able to do that, right? And so, and it's more than just nurses at the bedside. Your house supervisor dictates the flow and traffic of that hospital. Management, right? They're all nurses. I mean, not super upper management, but the whole infrastructure of hospitals, nurses, even people that you don't even think are nurses, dressing up in business clothes, nurses. Yeah, it's like the whole hospital runs on that. Yeah, and Do you think TV shows like Grey's Anatomy or even The Pitt, and I like The Pitt. I've never seen it.
I like it. It's the most medically accurate I've seen. However, the one caveat that I notice is it's always doctor POV, which doctors deserve their praise as well. But I'm talking about nurses right now. Nurses do a lot more than these TV shows present.
Oh my God. Please preach. I'm here for you.
It makes me realize that the general public watches these shows and assumes we don't do anything.
Right.
But we're doing a lot of those things. And then it's not when they're in the hospital, they don't recognize like that's us.
Yeah.
We're the ones doing all of that. Not to say doctors don't do any of it, but nurses are always there. Yeah. But they don't show us like that on TV.
Yeah, you know what I do? I always tell my patients, I always like joke with them a little bit, and they, you know, I'll do something, right? Like I had a patient drop her AirPod, and it landed like behind the bed, right? it was like behind the vent and everything, and I was crawling on my hands and knees to get this for her, right? Yeah. Because who else is gonna do it? You know, I don't want her unplugging the fucking vent, right? So I'm doing it, right? And while I'm on the ground, right? I'm thinking to myself, I'm college educated, right? I've been doing ICU for over 10 years. I make a respectable living, right? And I'm on my hands and knees.
In a hospital floor.
On a hospital. Dude, if I saw my lawyer crawling on his hands and knees, my respect for him might drop a little bit. If I saw my doctor, my barber, anybody on their hands and knees crawling on the floor, I'm going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm on my hands and knees on a dirty hospital floor, grabbing this poor little girl's AirPod, right? And then I give it back to her, and I laugh, and I go, this is the part of nursing that they don't show on TV.
They don't show the little things.
They don't show the little things. And I'm telling you what, you can't have a brick house without some grout in the middle, right? And we're the grout. That literally keeps that house together.
Yeah.
And without it, it all falls apart. And it's so funny because there's so much, every single time I do something, and it makes, sometimes you do something that just makes you mad, right? I laugh in my head and I go, this is the part of nursing they don't show on TV. I feel like we could make a whole segment of that.
Totally.
Of like what they don't show on TV. You could almost make a show.
You could. That's where's our show?
That's what I'm saying.
Where's our show? We should pitch it.
We should pitch it. Yeah. I don't have the budget for the camera crew, but
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Put on a notepad. You know?
No, that's how it feels. It feels like we're once again underappreciated because the people just don't know.
Yeah.
But then you have people too that you tell them what actually happens. We get hit, spit, kicked, bit. Choked, anything you could think of. It does happen to us. Some people like that. Some people like that. Some people don't. Yeah. And so we're like, the people that you tell that to, like general public, they're like, can't even imagine because they would never treat us that way. But they don't realize like a lot of patients do. And not just psych patients. You know, some people are just assholes.
Oh yeah.
Truthfully.
Yeah.
But some people have psych issues and they but when you tell like the general public like this stuff happens to you, they're like, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the ER.
That's so funny because whenever people like in dating life or whatnot, just out and about, right? You have the same conversations like all the time. And the number one question, you probably get this one a lot too, is what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Wow, ICU. Is that really intense? Yeah, that's what the I in ICU stands for, right?
Actually.
Yeah, actually, you're onto something, right? Like, yeah, you struck gold. You don't need to dig any further. You found it, right? We're very intense. And so it was so funny though, because they always ask, what is the craziest thing you've ever seen? And I tell people all the time, medically, nothing phases me anymore. You know what surprises me about everything is people. People. Like, I'm like, I thought you existed in a movie. You're in real life. Some people are so mean, so vile, cruel. Like, you're like this dude, like he's, passed out on a bed. You don't know who you're dealing with, right? He's intubated and everything. I saw this one patient, this woman come in. I'm like, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. I'm his wife. And I'm like, oh, okay, this dude overdosed on like a lot of drugs and everything. He was found with a hooker in his hotel room. And then I saw another lady come in and she's like, I'm his girlfriend.
Oh no.
And it was like they didn't overlap. Thank God I wasn't there for that one, right? But you know what happens though is that sometimes you get a front courtside seat to some hot drama and you want to find out what people are made of, go to an ICU bed. When people are on their deathbed, you really see what people are made out of, right? And you see some crazy shit that people say, do, feel, act. It is crazy. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, dude, I hope that I don't have to bear witness to the drama of the reality TV show, because if shit gets crunk, the manager is going to look at me and go, what could you have done differently? Every time. And
they want us to write like a report. I'm not writing that report. Yeah. Why? So I can get brought into court? Yeah. I don't want to write what I saw.
That's a funny one too, right?
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
In nursing school, they're like, chart. And it's like, the more your name goes on shit, the more they're pulling you in for questions.
Absolutely.
Right?
I'm going to try what's necessary.
What's necessary, yeah. I feel like I'm being punished for going above and beyond.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's see. So we talked about you being a nurse manager. We talked about you moving into travel, but do you want to pivot into bullying within nursing?
Yeah. Actually, when you started talking about that a couple of years ago, I really locked into like your story. I really locked into your like profile, and we were talking about this off camera like a little bit earlier, but it was so crazy that you were talking about standing up for somebody, and when I was reading the comments to your videos, people were anonymously attacking you through your comments. Not only did the bullying happen at work, but it manifested itself into your personal life, and I say that nursing is already hard enough as it is, right? We already get treated like crap by society, but not all the time. But the last thing that we need with all the pressure, the death, everything, is us not to be kind to each other. And I've noticed that in nursing, and this is for all like the new nurses, right? Because that's when it typically happens the most, is people hate to feel dumb. There's nurses out there that get belittled by doctors, people that talk to them like they're dumb, right? They could have a lot going on in their personal life. And so what people do, I feel, is it's like that abused kid, that gets in fights at school because he probably is getting hit at home. Yeah. That's what happens, I feel like, in nursing, where these people, they've been belittled, and now it's the next person's turn, and it makes them feel better that they know something that you don't, Yeah, your journey on that. Like, how did that end, by the way? I'm very curious.
Yeah,
because
I got fired.
Yeah.
I got fired.
No, I mean, like, this was before you blew up. Yeah. This is before she blew up. This is so funny, right? This is like a hilarious moment to me, right? Because you were a smaller channel, right? And then these people are belittling you. They were saying mean things, like talking about your social media and shit like that, right? And you have a lot going for you, right? But these people, if you listen to these people, they keep you down. But you did it, and you kept pushing through, right? After all of that negativity. And then you had the last laugh. Look at you.
Thank you.
Doing so well.
Thank you.
You're a networking genius. You're incredible. Yeah.
Thank you. Because when it happened, my whole world crumbled for a moment because I'd never in my life been fired. I've had many jobs my whole life. A lifeguard, waitress, anything in healthcare. I've done a lot of things. Retail, never have been fired. Yeah. Ever. I've quit my jobs. Yeah. So this is the first time in my career ever I've been fired. So kind of hit my... gave me a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was doing something right now. Two things to keep in mind if a new grad's listening to this. I was a travel nurse, so I am not one of them. And that was something I did not understand. I thought we could be there together and create a better environment, because something you hit on was no one likes to feel dumb, and no one likes to feel like some outsider knows something they don't. Not necessarily even dumb, but because we have a unique perspective of other hospitals and how they run.
Yeah, but they go, this is how we do shit here.
Yes. You stay out of it type thing. But I had very early on had new grads coming to me saying, there's a specific nurse, couple of them on this unit that are mean. They're so mean. And it happened to be, it's not always this way, but it happened to be the older, more seasoned nurses treating the younger new grads like absolute shit. Yeah. And I would hear the way they talk to them. This particular day, there was a nursing student who was paired with one of these bullies. She was belittling him in the hall, making him feel dumb. Oh, you don't know how to do that. What are you guys learning? It's just this culture of constantly putting someone down instead of letting them learn. They're not supposed to know everything. In fact, I don't know everything. I've only been a nurse for 6 years. I'm the first person to say, I don't know how to do that. You're going to show me. Because I don't really care if you think I'm dumb. I need to learn how to do it. But some new grads don't have the confidence to do that. And so you watch this bully get through life, get through her whole unit. Everyone knows she's like this, but it's just how she is.
Yeah, that's Becky.
It's Becky's personality. We just ignore her. Well, you're never going to keep your core staff. They will eventually leave because you're not being a good leader. It starts with management. You're not being a good leader by allowing that to happen just because you guys are besties with Becky. Right. You can't allow your unit to belittle each other like that.
Can I say something funny, though? When I was in management, though, right? And yet again, no names, right? But you are removed from the bedside. I don't know what's happening at the bedside. People would all the time be like, why is this my assignment? Or they'd be like, oh, they know that I used to work at this hospital and that's why you guys do that, right? I don't make the assignments, right? Like, we actually do it alphabetically, right? If your last name's Wolf, you're always going to be in this area, right? It's not, but people, there's an egocentrism where people go like, why me, right? And it's like, and there's a little bit of like this thing where, if the charge nurse, because they can make your life hell with giving you shit assignments, right? It's like if the charge nurse is giving me a super tough assignment, is that because they think I'm smart, or is it because they hate me, right? Or if they give me an easy one, is that because they like me, or they think I'm dumb? Yes, and it gets in your head, right? And it's so funny because I would have nurses come up to me and they'd be like, "This person's a bully." Now, when I talk to that person, the bully, if you will, they're so nice to me, right?
Yeah, and they know who to kiss ass.
I can't see the bully in you.
Sure.
Right? And then I'm like, and I'm not there for the conversation. So I'm like, is it that bad?
Sure.
Because I don't know. And I'm anti-bullying. Let me tell you, if there's a picket sign that I'm holding, it's the anti-bully one. Like, I feel very passionate about that because I got bullied very hard going into nursing school. There's like, not nursing school. My first nursing job, my first ICU job, I transitioned from med-surg to ICU. Big change. Yeah. It's a lot, and I was 6 months med-surg, country hospital in Texas. Yeah. Went and got a job in Dallas in ICU, and that imposter syndrome. People just going like, this guy's dumb. He's not going to learn it, and these people were very hard on me. And I can go into crazy details of that, but I'll spare you the story, though. But it was, I would go to work and stand in my patients' rooms. And I'm a decently fit person. My feet were tired. I was so tired standing, no breaks, just standing in my patient's room, not sitting at the nursing desk, just always being present because I was always afraid of losing my job and my livelihood because of being bullied. And the amount of mental anguish that I had to endure going into work all the time. I made a promise to myself that I would never treat another nurse like that. But it's so funny the longer you are a nurse, right? I've been in the ICU for over 10 years now. Sometimes when people make mistakes, I even find myself, right, going, how did they not know that? In my mind, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not being an asshole to them, and
Sure.
I'm not saying it. It's just in my mind.
Sure.
Right? And I'm like, is this going to be a multiplier when I'm 30 years a nurse and then I'm 3 times more? How did you not know that? It's like, what's that like Harvey Dent thing where in a Batman he goes, you either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and it's like, are we just inevitably, right? Because you look at like newer nurses, right? And you see that these newer nurses aren't as, they're nicer, right? And then you look at the older nurses, stereotypically, and we're like, they eat their young, right? But those older nurses were once younger nurses. Were they always like that? Is it just,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to ask them because that's a real rude question to be like, hey, were you always an asshole?
Right.
You know?
But honestly, I don't know. I have something, if you can put it in a professional manner and say, wow, do you get away with talking to everyone like that?
Yeah.
Is that how you always talk?
Yeah, you would hate to meet you. I promise you that.
You would hate to meet you because what you're saying too is these newer nurses, regardless of what they don't know, and to be fair, I've had the same thoughts. That's the difference. So you don't verbalize it to them or away from them to shit on them.
Correct.
You can teach people kindly.
Yeah.
For instance, I use a story a lot, and I if this nursing student's out there listening, it was a cute mistake, and I mean that kindly. I really do.
Yeah.
They're following me. I'm a travel nurse with a nursing student, number one. I'm like, well, I don't know why you were put with me. I don't know anything about this floor, but come on, let's do this. Well, he wants to give meds. I hand him the Prostat. Okay. This patient is on tube feed, and it's the kind of tube feed you can pour into the bag.
Okay.
So I hand him the Prostat. I'm doing other stuff, and he says he gave the Prostat. I'm like, when'd you give the Prostat? Like, I've been over here. Wait. I was charting in the room. I was in there. I was like, how'd you give it? He poured it in the bag of the tube feed. I mean, they're going to get the Prostat eventually.
Eventually.
But that's not how we do it. But it was a simple, cute mistake. But I'm thinking, you know what? Doesn't matter. Yeah. It didn't harm the patient.
Right.
They're going to get the Prostat, just not exactly how they should. But it was one of those things I thought, how did this go through his mind? To be fair, I wasn't the best teacher. Clearly, I thought he knew what he didn't know. And I could have been like, this is how you do it, just in case you didn't know. So really, it falls back on me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like a good leader should take responsibility of that versus shit on the newbies for not knowing what they don't know.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Like, yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, no, that's what being a leader is, accountability, right?
Yeah.
And some people are bred for it, some people aren't. And in nursing, we are forced at a young age, right? There's like 20-year-olds who are doing chest compressions on your loved one, making life-altering decisions that you don't even know about. It's another thing they don't show on TV, right? I was titrating meds, and then these patients' families are like, you could do that? And it's like...
It's not the doctor.
Yeah. Welcome to our world, right? But it's so funny, though, that your little story about... that would be another one, right? Like the confessionals of precepting, right? Because I had a nurse that I was precepting once, and... you know, I'm not going to mention his name. It's funny, not funny, right? But we're in the room, and it's just like you, right? Where you've got to watch him like a hawk, but what you think is common sense, none of us are born with this like information like in our head. We have to learn this, right? And a lot of good nurses made a lot of mistakes, and they don't make them again, right? Like a lot of things that I'll tell people, hey, don't do that. And then I'm like, because this will happen.
Yes.
And
you know that because maybe a friend or you did it.
No names here. It was me. Yeah. But yeah. And so he's in the room, and I'm like, hey, you need to give a heparin shot. And he goes, oh, okay. Yeah. And so he goes and pokes the patient, and the patient goes, and I told him, like, you know, you want to get the stomach, you want to grab it, you know, but I don't watch him do it. And he pokes the patient, and the patient goes, ow, that really hurt. And then I'm like, and I'm like making a joke. I'm like, I hate needles too, man, right? And then all of a sudden I see my nursing student, and he's got an 18 gauge needle in his hand, and that's how he gave the heparin. 18 gauge, and I'm like, Oh, that patient just said ouch, like he stubbed his toe. Not that he got shanked by a medieval sword, an 18 gauge. And I like told, like, and I didn't embarrass him.
Sure.
In front of everybody.
That's key.
I just pulled him to the side. I'm like, bro, let me tell you something. That needle is so huge that you can use it as a fucking telescope. You can use that as a straw to your beverage, dude. That is what you just shanked the patient with. Yeah, but it's a joke, and we were just cracking one, right? And it's like there's, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
It is. It's all in the delivery.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like that's the best way to do it. You do have to tell them. Like some new grads get upset because you told them. You have to tell them what they do wrong regardless. I'm going to tell you. Correct. But I hope that you can laugh about this later. You know what I mean? Like there's stuff I did and I look back, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
So many times.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was overwhelmed. I always say, you're not dumb, you're just overwhelmed. So you're just going through the motions, hoping that you make the right one, but you're not. Slow down.
You're not dumb, you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That is huge for new nurses to like know that, because you're not dumb. You know your stuff, and you'd be surprised how much you know. When I was in the ICU, right, I felt so dumb compared to everybody, right? But I learned, I worked hard, and then I went and floated to another unit. And I'm not saying any nurse knows any more than another nurse, but what I'm saying is I surprised myself with how much I learned when I left the floor, a toxic environment, to go float to another floor. Mm-hmm. And I heard the positive feedback of people going, wow, how did you know that? And I wasn't hearing that before, because every single time I would go home after work, I didn't listen to music. I didn't even know I wasn't listening to music. I was listening to my thoughts. And I'm just in the car driving home going, am I even in the right profession? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, why am I so dumb? And when I left the unit and got positivity, it made me want to learn more. It made me feel like I was I was in the right direction. I made the right choice. Mm-hmm. And I think we face this situation like all the time. All of us do, where we beat ourselves up more than we ever should. We're so hard on ourselves. And it's like, yet again, I mean, to hit the point again, it's like, this job's hard enough as it is. You don't need to be hard on yourself too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to hit back on, because you said, not to get into too many details, but no, actually, I want the details. You said that you were bullied as a male nurse. And I think that's interesting, because a lot of people are bullied, but majority I hear from are women. Yeah. So this would relate to men. Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I'll go back to the genesis of where the bullying starts. And I'm going to speak for men on this one, right? And so as far as men go, nursing is a lot different than it was back in the day. Back in the day, gosh, Lee, I was in, you can tell I'm from the South, gosh, Lee.
Gosh, Lee.
Gosh darn it. I went to nursing school, 13, 14 years ago? Yeah, here we are. No, shit, girl, here we are, right? And I went there, and the very first question that people would ask me would be, why not a doctor? Mm. There was a lot of pressure, right?
Because you're a man, number one.
I'm a man, mm-hmm. right? And yet again, it's yes, I understand the dichotomy of men and women in these situations. Mm-hmm. But there's always two sides of a coin. I sympathize. I work with women all the time. I see what you guys go through. Yeah. And you guys go through a lot, right? And women are a very powerful force. There's a reason why they call it Mother Nature, right? I understand the burdens that women have to go through. Not completely, because I'm not a woman, right? Sure. But as a man, we have our own little battles. And so the first one was the doctor thing. Why are you not a doctor, right? And then they go, a male nurse? A nurse, right? Yeah. It became a funny coin term, but back in the day, it was I felt like I wasn't living up to this standard that I was supposed to be living up to. Right?
From society, essentially.
From society, yeah. When I went to nursing school, we had 120 people in my class. 7 of us were guys.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, you see a little, it's not 50-50 yet, but the numbers are growing. Yeah. Right? And I try to tell people all the time, it's oh yeah, it's like being a male cheerleader, right? Where it's dude, I'm surrounded by beautiful people all the time, dude. I get the inside scoop, right? My ability to talk to people actually improved because I wasn't just around ooga booga conversation with guys all the time. I was getting a more feminine, sensitive side from women, and I was learning a lot.
I love that.
But going into it, let's say travel nursing, right? That's a fun one, where you go into a new place and you are expected to learn a lot in a short amount of time, right? And when I say you're expected, right? People are not forgiving if you don't know information, right? It's and so you go into a place, and I remember I was in Texas, busting my ass, getting grilled out there, and then I went to Boston, and Boston has unions, and nursing is pretty good in Boston. Shout out to Boston, man, you guys are awesome. And I remember I came in, I was young, I was in my early 20s, and I was very cocky. And I was very like, oh yeah, I got this, man. We deal with this type of stuff, all that type of business. And everybody couldn't stand me because they thought I was like very cocky, which maybe they were right, you know, but I'd be like, oh, this is easy, man. This is Disneyland compared to where I come from, right? And they don't like that because people want to be validated in their struggle, right? So when you go to a place acting like you know everything, people don't like you. So then I took the inverse of that, right? And I went into another hospital and I decided I'm going to ask questions. And you probably already know where this one's going. People thought I was dumb. They were like, all he does is ask questions. Does he not know what he's doing? Right? And it's like, and we get condemned.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's sad that it's that way.
They always say, if you don't know, ask. But then when you ask, it's like, they're like,
they switch it on you.
Yeah. How the fuck did you not know that? Right? And people won't know why mistakes are made. It's because we get condemned for not knowing information. So I'd have to go, hey, do you know how to insert a Coude catheter? Yeah, fake it till you make it. I went to the bathroom, YouTubed it, right? And it's like,
because you're scared to ask.
I'm scared to ask.
Yeah,
a lot of pressure, right? And then it's like you go, and so that's going into it, right? But then you go to a hospital and people start wanting to ask about your personal life, right? And the number one question that I usually get is, where are you from, right? I quit telling people I was from Texas because people get political. Yep. Right? When you go to places.
Same reason I don't say Oklahoma anymore.
Yeah, because when you go to a place like when I lived in Hawaii, Boston, and stuff like that, right? It's
different.
It's different, right? I just keep quiet, you know? And so I kind of quit telling people where I was from because it would always spark some controversy, right? Then people go, are you married? Do you have kids? And it's like, and what you're doing is when you give people information, the hospital's a breeding ground for talking. People love to talk. And so people would ask these type of questions of me. And then it's like, well, now they know my dating profile. You know what I mean? Now they know if I'm single. If I'm single and I'm talking to somebody, then they go, oh, you must be flirting.
Oh, you know what I mean? They can twist it.
Yeah, and it becomes like, you almost get viewed as like predatory. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not saying like, like guys are what, you know what I mean? I'm just saying there's a perception, right?
That's what you've been through. You're speaking your truth.
Yeah. And it was kind of funny though, because it's like, I would talk to people and I'll never forget. I actually like, just for a social experiment, right? They were like, oh, he talks to a lot of girls. Well, like, no shit, dude. I work with a lot of them, right? And then they go, oh, he's talking to girls. He must be flirting or something like that. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to tell one person something. I'm just going to see how this one goes. And I'm like, yeah, I'm actually gay, right? And, I'm not gay, but I was just like.
You just wanted to see what would happen.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, nurses started joking with me going, oh, we know Jason likes, that guy. Look at that guy. And I'm like, I only told one person.
Interesting.
Now everybody knows. You know what I mean? And so as far as bullying and everything, it's you've got to be very careful with like the information that you give people, what you talk, because it's people like to talk.
They do.
Yeah, nursing is a fun sport. You learn a lot. And the one beautiful thing about travel nursing is every time you go to a place, like I said, I've been at 22 hospitals, and every single time I go to like a new place, you have to prove yourself again. You have to rebuild your whole persona, your whole character, right? Every single place that I go to, it's like a TV show. And it's a TV show that's been rebooted over and over and over again. It's like I know this character, but they're being played by a different actor.
Oh, yeah.
And you go to these places, you always have that one person that's power hungry.
Yeah.
You know, the right hand man. You've got that one person that always brings snacks. You know, you got somebody of every sort, right?
Yeah.
And I've done so many hospitals that I go to a place and I'm like, I've seen this movie before.
The same characters are there.
I've seen this one. I know how this plays out. And so I get very calculated with the information that I'm willing to share with people, you know? And that's it's so funny because as a guy, you know, we talk about sexual harassment all the time for women. When I watch all those like sexual harassment things, it's always like some dude in an office going like, you know, if you want that promotion type shit, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. And I've seen this training video for every hospital, every module,
same
right?
one.
Yeah, but then it's like, you get guys out there that like, people will make comments. People, you know, they'll talk about my scrubs and how they fit. You know what I mean?
And if it was the other way around.
If it was the other way around, we'd be having a much different story or time in HR, right? And it's like, why is that okay to talk about how my scrubs are fitting around my legs or something like that? And, you know, and it's like, what am I supposed to do with this information, right? Like, I used to work in a prison for.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, as a nurse when I lived in Hawaii. And I would, it was side gig, right? You know, because very expensive to live there.
Yeah.
And yet again, you have to be very careful as a male nurse where I worked at a female correction facility, and innately, because I'm from the South, I'm a very friendly person. Southern hospitality is a real thing. Somebody would be like, oh, you look good today. My natural response would be, thank you, you too, right? But you have to be so calculated where you're like, you are a guy in this profession, right? You need to be very careful, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where guys are placed in, women too, but I'm also saying guys are placed in a weird situation a lot of times. When I do like insert a Foley catheter in a female patient, I have to make sure that there's somebody.
A witness every single time.
Every time. I don't play that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's smart.
Yeah. And it's like, that's what you have to do. You know, you have to really protect yourself as a nurse or as a male nurse, because perception is everything, right? The way that people perceive you, the court of public opinion is the thing that will crucify you as a male nurse. And, you know, you have to be very vigilant. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's crazy. But as a male nurse, going through these places, I've experienced like a lot of that type of stuff and everything. And, you know, I haven't been the most perfect person ever, right? There's probably people that watch this and they go, oh, I remember him from this hospital and everything. Yeah. In my early 20s, we make mistakes. You date a coworker, you do something that you're not supposed to do, right? And but yeah, you get older, you learn from your mistakes, and it's like that thing we were talking about earlier. It's like, I've made these mistakes before.
Yeah, I've done this before. You shouldn't do this.
You shouldn't do this.
I know this from experience.
I don't tell them it's experience because we're just like word on the street.
We're just talking.
We're just talking here, right? But yeah, you learn a lot.
No, I think that's good. I wanted you to bring that up because I have had men in my DMs asking about, well, what about men that have been bullied? I'm like, to be fair, I can just speak about bullying generally. I'm not a man, so I can't speak from their point of view. So it's nice to hear it from someone's point of view. Not nice that you were bullied, but nice to have a perspective on it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, it was so nice having you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
We're definitely going to have Jason back for another episode, so you guys should tune in. But where can everyone find you?
Oh, yeah. So I'm back active on Instagram. I took a little hiatus. So my Instagram is Sir Master Wolf.
Yes.
And my TikTok is also Sir Master Wolf. And YouTube is Sir Master Wolf, which I'm still working on building that one.
YouTube's a different beast.
Yeah, I'll leave on this funny one, right? A lot of people always ask me about Sir Master Wolf. It comes from a really innocent place. When I was in college, I'm a nerd, right? And I didn't really go out and party in college, right? We did Monopoly night every Friday. And I would have all my friends and everything come over on a Friday night. And we would dress up in our fanciest attire, waist up. So when we're sitting at the table, we're all wearing like a tuxedo, but with like basketball shorts. But you would never know.
Yeah.
And we drank everything out of a wine glass, like chocolate milk, whatever, right? And we made a toast. And we were always like, you know, saying something related to money. It's like, to compound interest, or dare I say dividends, you know, in like
You were a nerd.
we just do that, make toast and speak
cute.
as if we own the world. And when we addressed each other, we'd always go like, I'd be like, Lane Alexander Cox Jr. Senior the Third, and he'd be like, Sir Master Wolf, and that's where it came from. And so
awesome.
I have my Instagram handle Sir Master Wolf because I created that years ago, like over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then your social media platform like takes off a little bit, and then people go,
What is this?
are you in a dominatrix? You know, like, what is this? And I'm like, no, this came from a place of childhood and love.
You
Board
pervert.
games, you pervert. Yeah, what are you doing? But that's where the name comes from.
That's cute. I like that. I've actually always wondered, so that's good to know.
And then people all the time go, Wolf, like, oh, that's a cool name. And then I'm like, what's your name? And I'm like, my name's Jason Wolf. And then they go, oh, so that's not just a nickname. And I'm like, no, that's my actual name. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciated having you on this episode. I felt like it went really well. We're going to have the links to Jason's social medias in the description, so make sure you go give him a follow.
Appreciate
and
it.
stay tuned because I think he'll be around for another episode.
Let's do it.
All right. Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.